Hello everyone, and welcome to Of Cryptids and Creatures, the show where I, a very tired, self-taught college artist, teaches you about cryptids and creatures from Dungeons and Dragons to our own myths and legends in the real world. For this episode, we're going to talk about our first cryptid of the series, the Loch Ness Monster, or, as we like to call her sometimes, Nessie. Now, Nessie is said to be a large creature and or monster that lives in the Loch Ness in Scotland. And while you may think that this is a creature that's come about in the past 100 years or so, reports of the Loch Ness Monster have actually been depicted as early as 565 AD. However, a lot of the reports that we know about really come from 1933 and 1934, 1934 being when it was first photographed. And that is that classic picture that we love to see of the monster's neck and back coming out of the water, though it's been largely discredited to be a stick. But that's part of the fun of cryptids. Cryptids are described as animals that have been claimed to exist but have never actually been proven to exist. They're creatures like Bigfoot that we hear about all the time, and there's nothing wrong with having a little fun about lake monsters. In fact, lots of other cryptids that have been reported have been similar to Nessie in other areas. And if we take a look at how Nessie and these other cryptids are described and often drawn, they're very similar to prehistoric dinosaurs whose bones we've actually, uncovered and seen before. So that's kind of what I'm trying to encapsulate in this drawing of Nessie. It's that iconic image that we've seen from the 1930s of the head and the shoulders coming out of the water, but then I kind of take inspiration from images of dinosaurs that are similar to this idea of a prehistoric water monster. Of course, there have been other attempted searches for this creature throughout the years, and it wasn't just something that has been let go from the past. This is something that the place of Loch Ness embraces. It's something fun that they get to share and enjoy and tell stories about, and it's very similar to a lot of Scottish folklore and their use of mythical sea creatures and that sort of thing, and it's just a fun thing in general to embrace and play with, and Nessie has become such an iconic part of stories in Scotland. In fact, Scotland actually has a partly serious, partly fun code of practice that was implemented in 2001 when a lot of people were searching for Nessie, and it's that if Nessie were ever discovered, Nessie would actually be protected by their government in the way that they could take a DNA sample from it, and then it would be released and protected in the lake where it lived. Regardless of whether Nessie is a real creature that lives in the lake or just a fun storytelling device we use to make our world just a little more fantastical, I don't think it really matters. I think Nessie is a fun character, and honestly I really hope my drawing kind of reflects that. I've kind of gone for that weird deep green color that I'm coloring in now, and I kind of make it a little deeper with browns, and then you can see I kind of add this yellow, and you'll actually see in a few moments I color over it because it was just too bright, and I kind of wanted to keep that mystery and darkness and kind of fuzziness that a lot of cryptids have because the photographs are so bad. I actually had a little bit of a challenge with this one because I didn't really want to give it too much of a face, and I was trying to get the proportions right. You'll see several times in the beginning of the video where I redraw that tail, and you can still kind of see it in the paper because I drew too heavily and I couldn't erase it fully, but I think it turned out alright. Despite that, And I think a lot of it pops because I have another piece of paper under the paper that I'm actually coloring on, because my markers bleed into the paper a lot, and I just haven't gotten a new sketchbook for that. But I think regardless of that, it turns out interesting. And then you can see I add these kind of lighter green spots, and they really don't pop as much. And I do come back in a little bit and I do fix that. I go in with my white highlights that I love so much and fix that up. And here I am darkening all of those lines again. And I was really not having a great day in terms of the shakiness of my hand and the camera. You'll see a lot of the lines aren't exactly how I envision them being, or they're a lot thicker in weird places, but you know, that's the process of art. And I think I say this every week, you know, you just kind of roll with what you make and it eventually turns out okay. And I think that's a really fun thing that I've discovered about this whole process, is that even if I do hate it, I do love sharing these stories with you guys, because they're important to me in a weird way, and I think it's important to tell stories regardless of whether they're true or fantastical or anything in between. And I'm having a lot of fun with the series, and I'm glad that I can share this with you guys. So for these last few moments, you can see me going in with that white pen and just kind of highlighting some bits, and then I make some weird lines in some places to make it pop and give it a little more depth. And I add some details that like weren't there before. And you can see I just kind of don't give Nessie a face. And I think that kind of anonymity is a fun piece of this drawing, even though it could have been good with a face. And I add some bubbles and highlight those bubbles, and that's pretty much it. So without further ado, here is my finished drawing of Nessie, where you can still kind of see the tail. Couldn't quite get rid of that, but you know, that's art. So as always, this has been Of Cryptids and Creatures. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Royal Spook. I'll see you next week.